name is Ashley Gess. I am a Virginia Western faculty member. I teach primarily anatomy and physiology, but also general biology. I am also the only professor who teaches online science, because nobody else wants to. It's a hard thing. To be honest with you, when I started the journey of online science, I didn't want to either, because I had an issue without the affect. You're telling me that clicking on a leaf and holding a leaf is the same thing? No. And I had a hard time with that as a scientist first. So what I'd like to do is show you my course, some specific things about my course. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I want to encourage you. I've put my email address up on the board. I welcome interaction. I welcome criticism. Please do it nicely, but I need to learn. You know, I've only been doing this 20 years. I've met other people who have been in this biz 30, 40 years. I've met some people just out of school who are learning things that I didn't know. So it's really important to me that I get your feedback if you have any. Today, my goals, I want to show you how I teach with intent to do the following. This is just a few things. Number one, I teach with intent of scaffolding for my students, because I'm assuming that nobody has the same background. So nobody has the same area in which to construct knowledge. And so I want to create experiences upon which I can build cohesive learning. And that's what the scaffolding is. Number two, my goal is to build community, because we know from research that we learn, especially at the undergraduate level, we learn better outside of class. And this means we need to have a community in which to feel safe and learn outside of class. And you're sitting here saying, I thought this was a virtual thing. It is. Number three, I want to show you how I try to give students an opportunity to authentically apply their learning. Now you're probably going, how does she do that? This is online. Where's the lab? How does she do that? Hold tight, let me show you. So here you'll see my course. I love this changing the banner idea. I do this usually twice a semester, and I find a really cool quotation, and then I try to pull it in. During the first half of the course, I can't remember the exact words, but it's love is biology. Biology is love, or something of the same. And then the other one, this is second half of the course. We are biology. We're reminded of this at the beginning, at the end, birth and at death. In between, we do what we can to forget. And of course, biology is the study of living organisms, and we do study a living organism in this course. So first thing, I want you to notice my what is this? Thank you. Course tabs, course menu. Thank you. I try to keep it as streamlined as possible. I do use the course calendar. That's very helpful for students. But I also have a pacing guide that I'd like to show you here. And I don't know if you do this, but I have a separate pacing guide where they can go look at a week's glance and find out what's coming up. Week 1, what is the topic? What are the dates that it opens and closes? What are the lab assignments? And what are the lecture assignments? So it's a snapshot of what they learn, and I find this is extremely important for our students, or really for any students. And then the bottom line for my course is that I have a weekly assignments tab. And what you'll see is the fact that I enjoy using modules, not just folders. Now, why do I do that? Because, again, it chunks the learning out. And you heard Dr. Doolittle talking about chunking earlier. Students need chunks of learning. And so here we can see I start with a course orientation, which we all should be doing, and I do this in my face-to-face class as well. And then week 1, what does it mean to be alive? That's my theme for the week. And here in the front, you can see I highlight when it's due. I give them all their objectives flat out. I mean, that's what they should be able to do. Notice I don't say no. What should you be able to do? by the end of the week. And then the bottom line is how I communicate to them, again, a checklist that mirrors the course pacing guide. Okay. When you go into a module, you will find, this is cool. I don't know if you've used modules before, but here we have a clickable outline, table of contents. So all the Learn Smart assignments, this is a pre-lecture assignment. All of the lecture PowerPoint, and then I do my own lecture video. Let me say to you, if you don't do lecture video, I know the intellectual rights thing. Don't tell me about that because I know all about it, and I'm going to tell you that this is the one consistent thing that students like, consistently across the board. They like to see you. Do you know, I even make them better and scaffold information by doing it in the lecture. I will say to them, hey, take a minute, respond to this poll, Carrie. I say this in the lecture. I get my role and I call them out in the lecture. And they go, and then I go back to them and I email them and say, did you get my question in the lecture? And they think I'm psychic. But it works. It's awesome. So you give them this information. Notice the structure of the course. I have Learn Smarter assignments, which are pre-lecture assignments. Then we do listen to lecture. And then I usually do a lab that is a combination between lab simulations and wet lab. How do I decide what to put in my week 1 stuff? I decide that after I decide what the student should look like at the end of the course. Now let me introduce you to a concept called backward design. Because this is the most, in my opinion, the most sound way to design any course. Have any of you heard of backward design? Several of you, thankfully. So what you have to do is decide on what the student should be able to do at the end of the course. And then every single week, I take one of those things and I design pre-lecture assignments, lecture assignments, lab assignments to meet that end of course outcome. There's the scaffolding piece. Because I know what I have to prepare them for in week 1 to get to week 6. So in week 6, I can go, hey, do you remember week 1? Go back to that. And I know predictably what I have given to build on. Does this make sense? So backward design is one of the hallmarks of all of my courses. But this one, you can see it very clearly. Okay, the other thing I want to show you is how I build community. Now, it is definitely, I do it mostly around lab, but I also have a discussion group. So let me show you the discussion groups. At the very beginning of the course, I asked the students to put themselves into a lab/discussion group. Totally random. No times associated, nothing. So here they are, and on the group discussion board, I have them read an outside book, which is about gene therapy, and it's a true story. And I have created questions for each section. And so five separate weeks of the course, they are responding to the questions from the reading. And I have them debate each other. And of course, they also introduce themselves here. But here's my rubrics. Very important to have this posted clearly. And here I'm not grading biology. I'm grading English. I'm grading effectiveness of argumentation. You know, this kind of thing. I grade whether they invite a response from the person they're responding to. Why? Because I want them to start engaging each other, with or without me. So this goes on and on. You can see here's all my different posts. They have 5 of these. So that's one way I build community. Research shows, though, unfortunately, that women don't really get into discussion boards. I think I know why, because I'm all-knowing. Not really, but I think I know why. Because my discussion board post belongs to me. And then you can comment on my stuff. So this is why I choose to use the wiki as well. Let me show you that. So back to the groups. Here I am in my discussion group again. And notice I give them all a group wiki. And the group wiki, you can see I have them do their wet lab here. Here they have to do research ahead of the time. They do their lab and they have to post it. And then they have to comment on each other's work. And then the second week, I say to them, now get together in your group, meet collaboratively on Blackboard Collaborate, and come up with a unified purpose, materials, procedure, data chart. So you can kind of see this represented here. So here you see group 1, yeast and greenhouse gases. This is where they've collaborated after they have posted individually. I don't know if you can see that. So you can see different last names, their individual posts, and then they come up with a group post. Really cool thing about the wiki. If you go in, what you can do is you can edit each other's stuff. You not only comment. Now that's a key. I can go in and comment. Let me go into the instructor mode. I can go in and comment on their post here. Open, so everybody can read my comments. But look, I can also go in and edit. I can go right into the document. Now, I don't usually do that, but they do it to each other in the group document. So now it's not just my document, it's our working document. And the ownership of that document is amazing. Amazing. And you can see they are using it. I do this with every lab they do. I build it. Okay, first lab, we're going to start baby. We're just going to do an introduction. Second lab, we're going to do an introduction, and we're going to do a materials list and a procedure. Third lab, we're not even getting to conclusion yet. We're going to do data chart and graph. You see what I'm saying? But all of these build. And by the end, they don't even need me. Can we just go to the wiki and post this? And could you comment on that for us? And blah, blah, blah. Yes. It's fabulous. Okay. So that's how I build community. Those two things, very deliberate. And then the last thing, I give them the opportunity to authentically apply their learning. Let me explain to you the final lab assignment that I give them. Now remember, I build them up to this. I'm going to go to the lab assignment for you. Let's see. I think it's here. Yeast and greenhouse gases. Our studies up to this point have included X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Now let's pull all that together. Your job is to figure out, we as living organisms put off carbon dioxide, but we have a greenhouse gas problem. I want you to figure out a way to take that carbon dioxide and put it into a usable form. And I want you to create a technological device that will do it. I want you to give me models of that technological device. Then I want you to build it and test it and then tell me what was wrong and then rebuild it and retest it and make sure you can present these results online in a group. Collaboratively. And they do it. So I am teaching the content and practice of not just biology, but math and engineering intentionally together. They have engineering outcomes. They have math outcomes. They have science outcomes. Hallmark of integrative education. And these students come out and build the devices. And some of them have them continuing to go. Afterwards, one group, 2 semesters ago, built an algae light. And it's still working in their house. It's so cool. And how awesome it is for the students to bring their kids in and go, let's build this. Let's talk about greenhouse gases. Oh, maybe I'll be able to vote properly next time. You know? All in an online class, facilitated by this backward course design and the Blackboard format. Any questions? Yes?
I just said, going back to your wikis, because
Yes.
this has been something that's intrigued me a little.
Yes.
And I just not sure how it's used in Blackboard, how it appears in Blackboard, so I've been hesitant to use it.
Okay.
Can you identify who's making what changes and what those changes are?
You absolutely can, and I can show you that real quick. You can go to the participation summary, and you can see how much they have actually participated. And usually, if I'm deliberately grading on each person's work, I have them commit to a different color. And so they upload their comments or whatever in a different color, and that is decided from the outset.
Okay, so you can't like click on a name or a date and see where it was?
No, not necessarily, no. Not to my knowledge. No, where's my Blackboard person? Not to my knowledge, but I do have them commit to a different color. In this case, I don't use it that way, but in my Bio 142 class, which is anatomy, we do case study. It's an inverted classroom, and we commit to a color so I know who's posting what. Yes. Okay. Well, if you have any other questions, that's me. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass it over. Oh, yes.
If we wanted to look at your course, like after this time in here, is there any way that we can view it, like to be able to structure our own?
Carrie, can we do that? Can I share my course in any way? Can we do it? Or do I have to add people to my course? Instructional assistant? Yeah. So if you email me, yes, I can add you to my course. Yes, absolutely. But I'd like to give you the not just as a guest, but be able to have the faculty preferences. I mean, to be able to see it from my perspective as well. AGESS, guess, at virginiawestern.edu. Please do. And of course, give me feedback. You go like, this was great, but why do you do that? Tell me. I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Actually, it is the course that you tried to do the Blackboard exam.
I did, and I did the Blackboard, and I did not win. Yeah, it was several years ago. One thing I did not do that was a big boo-boo was I did not, when I was submitting to them, I did not, well, it was my first time doing it, so I didn't really give them really good examples to show them everywhere that all this stuff was. So, submit again? Okay, maybe I'll submit again. Thank you. Yeah. Woohoo! Okay. It was a couple years ago, and I've streamlined it a little more. Thankfully, feedback from cohorts have helped me, and it's an awesome course. If you want to ask somebody really, Adam is sitting in the back. He actually went through the course, and he can tell you true. He says. Okay, thank you. The backward design. Well, that's research. I mean, that is tried and true. That's how you design a course. Any course. It's not just online. If you're not looking to the end first, then what you'll end up with is piecemeal things together, and it'll lack cohesive purpose for your students. You've got to start at the end. This is what the students should walk away with. Now, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get them there? And then you can go back to chapter 1. I say, okay, chapter 1 provides this piece of that. And honestly, I'll tell you truthfully, I'm in the process of paring down all the mini objectives that I have. And there's bigger ideas, and I might step on some toes with this one, but we all have our little device where we can get any nugget of knowledge we want. Do our students really need to memorize all this stuff? The answer is no. I would submit. Now, am I saying memorization is not always good? No, there's a memorization element to all that we do. But are we teaching them to effectively use the knowledge? Or is it just a bunch of words on a page? I've tried really hard to make this beyond words on a page. And that's the important thing. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For the lab? So I have them do simulations that are that mimic exact what's in the lab, what my colleagues do. And then my recent doctoral work has been in integrative STEM education. The reason I bring that up is because one of the hallmark pieces of that is that to teach a whole student to be literate and to be functional in our coursework and also in our society, we need to intentionally present the content and practice of many disciplines together. And so my lab is not just a traditional bio, cookbook, follow these instructions, get this outcome lab. I mean, I do some of that, okay? They're simulations. But then what I deliberately ask my students to do is to take what they've learned from those simulations and to put them in practice by building a technological device on their own. And they're freaking out. Let me tell you, at first they're going, I don't know, you didn't tell me the answer. Don't you give me a review sheet? And I say, no, I don't. Because guess what? You got to figure this out. And you can go together. And so that's a big difference between what I do and what's traditionally online. A lot of people go get the canned kits or they'll, it's all online simulation. I could not live with myself ethically and do that because you lose the affect of biology. And that bothers me, So I have them, it's geared around experimenting with yeast as a living organism. And so they work with yeast, they talk about how yeast, is it alive or not, and then how can you show that it's alive, and then, hey, let's fool around with the enzymes of yeast, and then, hey, let's fool around with what yeast likes to eat, and then let's use yeast as the CO2 generator for your, hopefully, algae bioreactor. That is the last lab that they do. So, and I teach them argumentation, I teach them English, we do a little psychology. I have a couple psychology objectives in there. Mostly, though, it's biology, engineering, and math. So, yes? Yes. Yes. So we have a clear prerequisite. You have to be able to write to this level to be in the course. So that's important. And we have a math prerequisite as well to be able to be in the course. I also have a lot of hints online as far as, using the Writing Center. They're allowed to send me drafts. I read, let me tell you, it's all I can do to read and read and read and read. And then I comment. I hear the English teachers going, you don't know what it's like. And I'm thinking, let me show you a 25-page lab report that I've read 4 times. Because you got to do that to help them. In addition to the other stuff. I'm totally there. I'm with you. We're in it together. So that's a big piece. The other big piece is that, again, the collaborative piece. They work together to do a lot of this. Now, they do have independent portions that they have to write for me, but they work together. And then an important piece of good STEM education is the presentation part. You got to be able to communicate your results. And that means in writing, and that means orally, both. So I do a little of the public speaking. I use the public speaking rubrics in my course, as well as English rubrics. I use them all to grade, so I'm consistent across campus. Does that answer your question? No, because it's all virtual. They actually have to use the technology, and they can do it online, or we can do it synchronously, and we can do that online too. There is a synchronous element to my course. Please understand that too. The VCCS by default assumes an online course is asynchronous. Research would say that is not the most effective thing. So I'm kind of pushing the envelope here, and there is a small synchronous piece to my course so that they can meet me synchronously and do it that way if they'd like. Or they can record it and upload it. Good. Okay, well, but I do use Collaborate. I have that. I'll show you this here real quick. And I'm going over my time. But let me show you this. How do I meet with my professor? Notice what I have here. Office hours. I do 3 hours a week just for this class. Now, that's more than normal, but they have to have it. And then each individual lab group, I give them their own space that they go on, and they're required to meet in that. They decide when, but they're required to meet in that, and then I pop in to see them during those times. So, anything else?
I'm sorry, they're required to meet sequence?
Yes, they are. Now, they decide that in their own group. But that is consistent with what the literature would say. To build community, you have to be able to build community. And they need to see each other as well. So, anybody else? Okay. Thank you.